This is a 2025 Kia Sorento Hybrid SX Prestige, the fourth generation of Kia's mid-size crossover SUV hybrid, which just received an update. The base price for a new front-wheel drive Kia Sorento Hybrid EX is $40,065. Going instead with the SX Prestige Hybrid raises that price to $48,265. And my test car did include a few small options and cost $49,090. Looking at the Sorento Hybrid in profile, this gives you a good look at the mineral blue exterior paint. I think it's a perfectly lovely color. I will go ahead and put the dimensions up on the screen for you to check out and let you know that I have a lot more information in the description. The Kia Sorento has the option to get the smart open tailgate, and it shows you your cargo space. All 13 cubic feet of cargo space. Pull on these straps and now you have 45 cubic feet of cargo space. This seatbelt was buckled. Okay. And with both rows folded down, you actually get 75 cubic feet of storage. And you are also looking at what Kia calls the panoramic curved display. It is two 12.3-inch screens, one right next to the other. The first one being your instrument cluster, the second one being your center display. All right, let's dig into the powertrain. Where does 227 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque come from? Well, just as before, it comes from a turbocharged 1.6-liter inline four-cylinder, and that engine does do most of the work, especially when it comes to horsepower. It makes 177 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque. But the electric motor that's part of this makes 59 horsepower and also 195 pound-feet of torque, but at different speeds. So collectively, that's why we get the peak horsepower and torque that we do. And really, it's a pretty stout powertrain. If I floor the accelerator, give it a moment to kick down, but you actually get pretty darn decent pull. That's not explosive acceleration by any means, certainly, but plenty of power to get you moving. Now, the kickdown is a tiny touch on the slow side, but otherwise, it's stout. And being a hybrid definitely has its perks, especially when it comes to fuel economy. You get 34 miles to the gallon in the city and the highway and combined. Now, if you go with the front-wheel drive version of the Sorento, that does tick up a little bit. It's 36 miles to the gallon across the board. But while fuel economy is very important, it's not nearly as much fun as accelerating. Of course, I had to test it. Let me show you that right now. All right, everybody, time for an acceleration test in this updated Kia Sorento Hybrid. See how this hybrid powertrain can carry along this new body and interior. I do have it set in the sport driving mode, and I do have traction control limited, though with standard all-wheel drive, I am not expecting any wheel slip, but let's find out. Okay, coming to a complete stop. Floor the accelerator. There we go. Nice. Okay. Not bad. Yeah, all right, we're moving along just fine. Yeah, good pep, good torque. We only have a 6-speed transmission for gear changes, but with the electric motor providing 195 pound-feet of torque on its own, and then the engine helping out, we have nice, robust pull. All right, let's dig into the chassis. This is the most common setup you can get. Strut suspension up front, multi-link suspension in the rear. This is a unit construction, car-based crossover SUV, and it is four-wheel independent suspension. And given the category of vehicle that we are talking about, I think that Kia did a pretty good job to compromise between ride and handling. It is not so soft that it floats around and feels underdamped in any situation, but otherwise it absorbs bumps and lumps and undulations on the road without any trouble. So it's generally comfortable, but not like wafting around soft. And that's true on roads like this or on the interstate. I did test it there as well. Let me show you that. All right, everybody, time for a quick stint on the interstate. See how the Sorento feels on the open road. We do have plenty of driving aids. Kia calls it DriveWise. We also have highway driving assist too, which is adaptive cruise control and lane centering, all those things, but it'll also do lane change for you. But it is not a sustained hands-free system. It is still level 1.5, I guess you could say. They still want your hands on the wheel, but they'll change your lanes for you. We'll also just see how it feels on the road. Okay, on the interstate, up to speed, cruise control is set at 78 miles an hour to go with traffic. I do have lane centering and all the assistance stuff on, and we are going through a curve right now, so I'll take my hands off the wheel. And yeah, centering pretty darn well. Now I'm going to try a lane change. All I did was tap the signal. It wants my hands on the wheel. I'll try it one more time. There it goes. There it goes. Yep, it's doing that all on its own. I had my hands on the wheel for the start of it, but then it took over, and it does turn off the turn signal for you as well. So yeah, works pretty well. Also, we do have a 3-lane interpretation of what the car sees on the road. Let me show that to you real quick. It has a green arrow to show you the center of the lane, and it does show traffic on either side of you. I'm currently in the fast lane, so that's why it's only showing me one side at the moment. But yeah, pretty slick setup. More fundamentally, the engine is turning at about 2,400 RPM, and you can hear it a little bit, but it is largely in the background, pleasant enough. And for a 1.6 liter engine with a 6-speed transmission, 2,400 RPM is a fairly low engine speed. And considering the class of vehicle this is, this is definitely in the mainstream category. Wind noise and road noise is reasonable. You can hear some buffeting around the door seams a little bit here and around the front side view mirrors for sure. We do have acoustic glass for the windshield, but not for the front side windows. And road noise, it's there, but it's not bad. So yeah, it's a perfectly reasonable interstate car. And I have to say, a pretty darn comfortable one as well. And pretty darn efficient too. So, what do I think of this 2025 Kia Sorento Hybrid? Yeah, there's a lot to like here. I definitely like the way that Kia moved directionally in its design. Also, the interior is quite nice. This panoramic curved display is easy to use and also not overwhelming. Now, the driving itself, it's basically the same as it has been since the 4th generation came out. No major change there, but that's not a bad thing. The modern Sorento drives smoothly, relatively quietly, and especially in this hybrid, pretty darn efficiently as well. Does this Sorento drive better with the update? In the sense of overall driver and passenger convenience, yeah, it does. Because you have all this new stuff, and none of it detracts from the way it drove before. So no, the front end doesn't respond to your inputs better, and it's not worlds faster than before or anything like that. But the overall experience of being in this car for however long you need to be in it is better. I'm Robin Warner. Thank you very much for watching.